it's just the images keep getting more and more unbelievable, Kaylee. Our kids are around the same age. This is our worst nightmare. And do you think, what kind of animals rip children from their mothers? And unfortunately, this story is happening more and more as the death toll goes up. You know, one thing that I think we all need to remember, I think that we're at 14 dead Americans now. That number could grow. We know it's possible that we have American hostages. And I want our viewers to remember, as much as I am so appreciative of how much I feel so many people standing with the Jewish people, with Jewish Americans, we feel that solidarity. This attack was not just against Jews and wasn't just against Israelis. These Hamas animals, these terrorists killed people. They killed other Arabs, at least 40 Arabs the last time I looked. They killed people of Asian descent. They killed Americans. They have Italians hostage right now. So this was about inflicting as much pain as possible. And what I am deeply concerned about is this is not over. You know, right as I was listening to your show, Kaylee, and was looking at the news, it looks like the IDF is reporting that it's suspected that Hezbollah in the north is infiltrating. You know, 5 hours ago, the Biden administration, it was reported through CNN that the Biden administration said that they didn't think that Hezbollah was going to enter this war. So what does that mean? If it's accurate, and if as the IDF suspects, if Hezbollah is coming in through the north, and we do know that there was reportedly some rockets that came from Syria this morning into the Golan Heights. I would remind our viewers, one of the most important policy decisions in the Trump administration was for President Trump to recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. I stood on the Golan Heights, Kaylee, just a year ago. You see how close Israel is to those attacks. Thank God President Trump gave Israel the ability to recognize their sovereignty over the Golan Heights, because we knew a war like this could happen. We had no idea that it would be just mere years after President Trump made that policy decision. So what I am concerned about is if we end up in a multi-front war, which it appears that may be happening, we have clearly, since Saturday, lost deterrence. And for the past almost 2.5 years, I've been talking on your show about how crucial it is for the Biden administration to get deterrence back. We had a massive deterrence failure around the world whenever we had that careless and haphazard and disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. And that has emboldened so many actions that have happened around the world. You saw, of course, Russia invade Ukraine. And now you see this war that has happened. So this administration needs to stop spending so much time saying, don't worry, we're not sending in troops, we're not going to do anything. Spend more time talking about the tough actions that you will take if Iran enters this war through Hezbollah and through their proxies in Syria.
Well, it's hard to talk about Iran's role when you can't even mention the country's name, as happened yesterday. And while today you're talking about junk fees, that was the center of the president's speech. We do know he was on the phone with Netanyahu. However, you know, Morgan, I just want to update our viewers. You can see there on the bottom, Chiron, it's now at least 22 Americans who have been killed. 22 Americans. The numbers continue to get worse. And Morgan, our colleague Robert O'Brien, I think it's fair to say the premier hostage negotiator in our country, if not the world, responsible for releasing dozens of hostages through his work, said as recently, Saturday, we need to get FBI in there. We need to get JSOC in there, people who know how to do
or deterrence, the need for a credible threat. John Kerry even often talked about this when he was
So what do? They land in Israel. What are they doing at this hour to secure the release of people like a 9-month-old baby?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, the negotiators can only be as effective as who has empowered them. And so that ties in right to the conversation we were just having, Kaylee, about the need to restore deterrence, the need for a credible threat. John Kerry even often talked about this when he was negotiating the JCPOA with Iran, that there was no credible threat of force, which made it hard to negotiate. So for these negotiators, the people that they are talking to have to know that the United States it's as serious. They have to know that there will be retribution. You know, even for the terrible 1,000 loss of life in Israel, we have, as you just pointed out, 22 dead Americans now. So and we have to respond to that because this is a massive terror attack that has now affected our country. So in order to negotiate effectively, the people on the other side, which are proven to be, you know, pretty heinous terrorists, need to know that there will be ramifications. That's why when the National Security Advisor rushes on TV to say, don't worry, we're not going in, we're not going in, well, that's not the right message. That's not a deterrence message. You obviously are going to want to, from a physical perspective, defer to the Israelis because they know Gaza. House-to-house fighting, as Dan Crenshaw talked about with Harris in the last hour, is incredibly difficult and very hard, especially if you don't know the territory. So we're going to have to hope and pray that those negotiators make progress.
A lot of prayer.